this Friday night, but we appreciate you being here because it shows that you are concerned about what happens in your city. And it is your city, and that's why you are here. And that's why we have the candidates who are vying to lead the city for the next few years here with us this evening. Not to debate, but to discuss their issues, their priorities, the things that they are concerned about that will be concerning to you as well. We are going to begin this evening by giving each of the candidates a 1-minute opportunity to present themselves to you, introduce themselves, and present their platforms to you. We will begin this evening with the Honorable Jack Christie. Jack, microphone's in front of you. Yes, 1 minute, sir.
Good evening, citizens of Houston. I'm Jack Christie. I was president of the Spring Branch School Board, chairman of the State Board of Education, and 8 years on City Council at large. We have the same police force we did 12 years ago. Population has increased 500,000 people. That doesn't add up. We need more security for you and your neighborhoods. And to pay for that, we have to have a city that doesn't spend more than it takes in. That's one of the biggest problems the city has, and as a fiscal conservative, I'll tighten the budget and have a balanced budget.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the Super Neighborhood Alliance for hosting this. I'm Councilmember Robert Gallegos. I've been on council for the last 10 years. Prior to being on City Council, I was president of my civic club, Houston Country Club Place, for 15 years. I was the founder, first president of the Eastwood Lawndale Wayside Super Neighborhood. I'm chair of Quality of Life, vice chair of Economic Development, and former chair of Regulation and Neighborhood Affairs. I was appointed to these committees by Mayor Parker as well as Mayor Turner due to the fact that my passion is neighborhoods, improving our neighborhoods, and that's why I ran for mayor. I'm on my last term, my last year as a city council member, but with your support, I would like to come back as the mayor and work on our neighborhoods and improve our neighborhoods around the city of Houston. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, my name is Gilbert Garcia. I'm a native of Corpus Christi, Texas. That's where I was born and raised. I'm a product of public schools. My first big break is I went to Yale. My second big break is I went to Solomon Brothers. I worked there as an intern, turned it into a full-time job. I learned the financial industry. I moved to Houston in 1990, and from then I joined my firm, and we built a $200 million firm now to a $22 billion firm, which is about 3.5 times the city's budget. I'm used to big numbers. I've served on 2 pension boards. I've done everything with my kids. I'm married and have 4 kids. I've coached youth soccer. I've been the announcer at all the track meets. I've done everything for them. I have served on chairman of Metro, where we turned around a troubled agency. We improved transparency, got transparency awards. We got our full funding grant agreement, expanded light rail, redid the bus network for the first time in 100 years, and we got Transit Agency of the Year of all of North America in 2015. I'm ready to be mayor. I'll tell you a lot more tonight. I'm Gilbert Garcia. Thank you. I'll tell you a lot more tonight. I'm Gilbert Garcia. Thank you. You should be an auctioneer.
I'm Sheila Jackson Lee, and I want to be your mayor coming home from Washington, D.C. with the experience of a municipal court judge, a member of the Houston City Council, and 28 years in the United States Congress. Infrastructure, public safety, but quality of life and housing. I believe in super neighborhoods. When we go to the mayor's office, it will be our neighborhoods. Civic clubs and neighborhoods should be the guiding posts of how a mayor designs their leadership. You will see me in your neighborhoods asking you the hard questions. We can't have a very effective budget, but it's a quality of life budget. Even in this center right now, we need to be able to provide air conditioning, reconstruction, more expansion for people living with disabilities. Quality of life issues will be my key. You will be safe, our children will have a future, and we will bring more businesses in here. And yes, we will have ideas to make Houston pop. This
We will
is
have
August
ideas to make
25th,
Houston pop.
the anniversary
This
of
is
Hurricane
August
Harvey.
25th,
I never
the
left you
anniversary
during those
of
times
Hurricane
and
Harvey.
brought in billions
I
of
never
dollars
left you during
pursuant
those
to working
times
with Governor
and brought in
Abbott.
billions of
Yes,
dollars
I worked with the
pursuant to
state,
working with
the federal
Governor
government,
Abbott.
and the
Yes,
city of
I worked
Houston.
with the state,
Let's
the
ride
federal
into the
government,
future together.
and the
Sheila
city of
Jackson
Houston.
Lee,
Let's
I want to be
ride
your
into
mayor.
the future together. Sheila Jackson Lee, I want to be your mayor.
I'm Lee Kaplan. I'm grateful to my parents who taught me that if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. I've tried to live by that standard in everything I've done, whether as a student, an Eagle Scout, a husband, a father, a lawyer at a big firm where I made partner, a lawyer at a small firm that I co-founded that went from 3 lawyers and a secretary to 28 lawyers and 50 people. Everything I've done, I've tried to do it right, and I've been successful at it. So now, it's time to look at our city and focus on what matters the most. One is crime. In a town where we have half as many police officers per capita as Chicago and New York. A second is picking up the trash. A third is permitting, which is a disgraceful situation and an area in which we can improve it and have more affordable housing. And fourth is infrastructure, that is drainage and congestion. Those are things that deserve the most attention. They deserve a careful focus. Lee Kaplan. They deserve a careful focus. Lee Kaplan.
Good evening. I'm John Whitmire. My entire adult life,
John Whitmire.
I've been a public servant,
adult life,
serving in the House for 10 years, the Senate for 40. I chair
serving in the
criminal
House
justice
for 10
in
years,
the
the
Senate.
Senate for 40.
I'd like to
I
thank
chair
the
criminal
organizers,
justice
and I
in the
think
Senate.
it'd be
I'd like to thank
very
the
appropriate to
organizers.
give
I
Lee
think
Brown,
it
our
would be
former mayor,
very
a shout
appropriate
out
to give
for
Lee
the
Brown, our
concept
former
of
mayor,
promoting
a shout out
super
for the
neighborhoods.
concept and promoting.
There are many issues that we need to discuss tonight. I was approached by Houstonians 2 years ago to come closer to our issues. Issues that I've been discussing in Austin my entire career. Public safety, infrastructure, public health, safety. They've asked me to come closer to home and deal with the issues at City Hall. I've worked with 9 mayors. I've seen the best practices. They asked me to unite this city. We are moving in the direction of 2 cities, which we should stop tonight. Those who have, those who do not have. As we look at the diversity in this room, if we gather together, prioritize our resources, we can solve our local issues. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for your initial statements. Now we are going to deal with some issues, and the first issue is priorities. Some of you have already touched on those priorities in your opening statement, but now you will be given a minute and a half each to expound on what your personal priorities are. Again, we begin with Jack Christie.
I touched on it briefly, but you can't spend more than you got. We have a structurally imbalanced budget that hasn't been solved. In scouting, they teach you a scout is thrifty. My kids call me cheap. But I think that we need to tighten our belt, quit expanding government, improve the services, but you can't do it on credit. One council meeting, I cut up credit cards and say we can't keep putting the city's debt on credit cards that you have to pay someday for your children to pay. And so I will tighten the budget, but the first thing I'll do is help the police department, the men and women of the police department. We've got a good police department, fire department, and I'll support them because that's the most important thing for your safety.
Mr. Gallegos?
As the next mayor, my 3 priorities would be to hire more police officers. In the city of Houston, we have 5,400 officers covering over 645 square miles. When I go to Civic Club meetings, people are always asking, why don't we have more officers on the street? So it's 5,400 officers covering 645 square miles, and that's divided amongst 3 shifts. So that's even less officers on the street. I'd like to get officers that are on in the offices to actually come out and actually do patrolling, as well as hiring more police officers. Also, infrastructure improvement. It was in the Chronicle not too long ago where a few days ago where the city has lost 30 billion gallons of water due to our lack of infrastructure in regards to the pipes are breaking. So we need to concentrate on that as well. Solid waste. I know I can't count how many days people call my office and the other district council members wanting to know why their trash is not picked up. If your trash is picked up on a Monday and they haven't picked it up on they haven't picked it up as Tuesday or Wednesday, they're calling the office wanting to know why their trash has not been picked up. So solid waste, for example, in this year's budget, we approved $106 million. Talking to the director, they're actually needing $130 million. So the trash trucks are breaking down. We now have a $5,000 sign-on bonus to try to get more drivers, but we're losing these drivers to the private sector. So we're going to have to be more competitive with that. So as the next mayor, those are my 3 issues. Thank you. So as the next mayor, those are my 3 issues.
Hello? Okay. My name is Gilbert Garcia again. If you want to see what I stand for, just go to my website, GarciaForHouston.com. I have listed out all the things I would do in my first 100 days. It's very, very clear. It's all laid out for everyone to see. And on the first one, that brought up many of these issues. First and foremost, on policing and public safety, we all know people don't feel safe. All of us know somebody who's been a victim of crime. At the end of the day, 3 things. Number 1, we need much better lighting in those areas that are high crime areas. Number 2, we need to hire more civilians to get more police officers away from doing civilian jobs to get them out doing policing jobs. Number 3, I would bring back more community policing to expand police. We've already learned from the firefighter model that the way to get to the fire quickest is to disperse players throughout the region. That's how you get to a fire the quickest. We should expand community policing so they can get to crime faster and so they can have much greater visibility to prevent crime. But I have many more things in there as it relates to parts of the budget. I agree with everything that Mr. Christie just said. I would take it one step further, which is all the areas that have already been raided by the authorities, and we should all be concerned. I would audit. I would audit the housing department and I would audit the health department immediately. I would not wait to see what's there because we need to know if there's any slippage with taxpayer dollars. I would review the entire procurement process. Doing an airport procurement 4 times is not normal. As someone who's done big procurements at Metro, that's just not normal. And we need to make sure. Are you going to tell me I'm ending, or what are you telling me? I'm ending. I have much more. Go to my website. Thank you, GarciaForHouston.com. I have much more. Go to my website. Thank you,
A quick reminder, we are live streaming this on myfoxhouston.com, so if you know of someone who was not able to attend this evening, please send them a text. Let them know that they can watch what is going on and find out more about their city on myfoxhouston.com. Congresswoman?
A lot of time in neighborhoods, particularly during Hurricane Harvey, since we are remembering today, particularly seeing neighborhoods that were impacted in a devastating manner. What I want to do is to make sure that the bio system works so that we can really attack flooding and really get our hands around flooding. I know that there are neighborhoods here that has flooded over and over again. During Hurricane Harvey, for example, in my congressional district, Greens Bayou flooded and people lost their life. And so I introduced legislation that would understand with the Army Corps of Engineers how our bayou system works and how we can make sure that we get ahead of this problem. Every bayou I've impacted, Huntington Bayou, Greens Bayou, Braves Bayou, White Oak Bayou. So flooding, housing people, if we want this city to pop and to grow, we must have housing, affordable housing. Your young people come back home, we must have affordable housing. Public safety, I hope to be able to talk about more extensively because it's fire and police. And we have 2 chiefs that are committed to making our public safety the best. Let's talk about that at length. And then finally, let me say, I want to redefine Houston's image. It has to be a destination city, an international city, and we have to build an economic engine so that as we do our budget, we do our budget with more revenue coming in. We'll have an opportunity to talk about that. The old practices won't work. Talking about a budget that has to be skinny will not work. We have to have a budget that meets the quality of life of all of our citizens.
That meets the quality of life of all of our citizens.
What you're doing when you hire a mayor is you're hiring somebody to hire department heads. And the thing that has to be inculcated in all those people is we have to do things right. We already have the studies and the audits on how the city can be more efficient. Some of them were done in 2017 and 18. Civilianizing more of the police department so that the officers are on the street. Having a single HR department instead of separate HR departments for everybody. But the important thing is that we understand we have limits and we need to concentrate on priorities. Public safety is one, picking up the trash another, everything connected with permitting, which is a nightmare, and connected with that, if you've ever called 311, you understand the frustration of dealing with the city. Imagine if you're trying to build something and have to wait a year for a permit while you have your loan outstanding. And finally, everything there is about traffic and congestion. It's very important that we not promise you the moon, but we simply do the right thing and hire the best people. The mayor can look at everything, the mayor can cross-examine everybody, visit the entire city, but we can't fix everything. And so we have to be honest about what we can do. The county, for example, is responsible for taking the water in the bayous. The city is responsible for getting the water there. That's an example of what we have to do right.
We have a great city, we have great people, but our expectations of City Hall are not being met. Our city's services must be prioritized. Great cities do not boil their water for 2 days this spring. Single moms were leaving 11-year-olds to take care of 6-year-olds across the city because of our broken infrastructure. Certainly the city streets are very obviously in disrepair. Garbage pickup, I put mine out on Monday. I crossed my fingers that it'll be picked up at least by Wednesday or Thursday. This is not the service great cities provide. And it's not just our bayous, it's our drainage system in our neighborhoods. Most of our drainage systems have not been cleaned since Bob Lanier was mayor 30 years ago. Most of our drainage system will have a third of the capacity with litter, clippings, things that keep it from servicing the community. Great cities can do so much better. I would suggest to you, if we do not solve public safety, most of the other issues don't matter. If I'm fortunate to become mayor, I know for a fact that I can bring together the 80+ law enforcement agencies in Harris County, collaboration, talk to each other, go into the communities, get certain agencies to help us patrol. HISD has 250 officers that primarily remain at the school, even during closing hours. Metro could get off the transit lines and go in the community and back up HPD. There are so many simple solutions to public safety and holding people accountable and help those that want to turn their lives around.
Okay, on to our second question. Each candidate will be allotted 1.5 minutes to respond. And it's an important one for this particular group. It involves super neighborhoods and planning. The question is this: what role, if any, do you see for super neighborhood councils and the Super Neighborhood Alliance in planning for the city's future? Start us off, Dr. Christie.
I believe it was Mayor Lee P. Brown that started the neighborhood programs, and it was an innovative idea because the smaller city council and the mayor were up on high, but I don't think they were listening to the needs of the city. Now that the city council is 16 members, they have 16 areas, and that at large, like I was, the whole city. You better listen to your neighbors, because otherwise they're going to vote you out. And this is a good example of the turnout tonight, that you're interested in Houston for the next 10 years. And if a council member or a mayor does not listen to you, every email, every call, you should recall that mayor. Neighborhoods, it's the heart of this city. And as mayor, I'll listen to each and every one of you.
Councilmember Gallegos.
As the next mayor, Super Neighborhood and Super Neighborhood Alliance are very important in the city of Houston. I know that Mayor Brown started in his administration the Super Neighborhood Program. Back then I was president of my civic club, Houston Country Club Place. I reached out and organized the Eastwood Lawndale Wayside Super Neighborhood because it was very frustrating that you had 4 active neighborhoods close to each other, but we didn't know what the other one was doing. But with the Super Neighborhood, we have our monthly Super Neighborhood meeting. We have a representative that goes to our Super Neighborhood, and they hear and they see what's going on in our neighborhoods. And then you have those neighborhoods that are not active. They don't have an active civic club, but at least they can participate in a Super Neighborhood. So it's very important, the Super Neighborhood and Super Neighborhood Alliance. So as the next mayor for the city of Houston, I will definitely support Super Neighborhood and the Super Neighborhood Alliance to be part of our planning of the city. Thank you.
Gilbert Garcia.
Yep. Thank you. My name is Gilbert Garcia. And again, the super neighborhoods are vital. They are exactly the incredible best structure to give feedback to our leaders to make change. And if you want to know what type of mayor I will be, all you got to do is look back at what I've done just as a citizen. When one of the super neighborhood leaders, Stacy Fairchild, told me about what was going on in Washington Avenue, I went and took a tour with her. And I looked and I saw things in the daytime, and she goes, "You need to come at night." And I brought my wife and we went, remember, and Kim, we went and we took a ride and walked up and down Washington Avenue from about 12:30 to 2:30 in the morning. And everything they told me was true. All the noise, all the garbage, all the fighting, we saw it firsthand. That's the type of mayor I would be. So what did I do with that information? I've been talking about it ever since. I happen to have a radio show every Monday from 11 to 12 called A Tip from Gilbert. I had her on my radio show, I think twice, to talk about the sound ordinance, to really get some more momentum. I'm on 5 radio stations. I'm sure it helped. At the end of the day, that's the type of mayor I would be, because that's the type of person I have been in my entire life as a citizen. To be a problem solver, not just jump, not just to talk about it, but to take action, to get the data, the information, verify, and get to work. That's what I would do as mayor. I'm Gilbert Garcia. Thank you.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
I started out by saying that super neighborhoods are really part of the life and the governing of this city. And so I believe they have to be instrumental in helping us plan the city. One, I would enhance the Department of Neighborhoods to make sure that I have representatives, actual representatives from super neighborhoods and civic clubs. Then in particular, who hires or who is employed by the city? Go into neighborhoods and make sure that your city personnel reflect our neighborhoods and as well reflect the needs of the neighborhoods. I said I would have an opportunity to talk more about public safety. Public safety is driven by the neighborhoods. I will look to neighborhoods to be able to stop crime where it is, to make sure we get the violent criminals off the streets, but to make sure there's visibility in your neighborhoods as you need it, so that crime knows this is not a place to be. Downtown is a neighborhood, and it's true. We can have a lot of overlapping law enforcement that works. The individual that was caught who shot the deputy was caught by federal authorities and local authorities. We have police that can coalesce with each other. I see it in the federal system. I have been part of fusion centers and terrorist fusion centers. They work together. We've done that. We can have a safe city, and I expect to do that listening to super neighborhoods on the question of their needs in their neighborhood and begin to plan from the neighborhood out, working with a budget that responds to your needs. You may need housing. We'll put housing in your neighborhood as the budget will allow.
Lee Kaplan.
Well, I think we all violently agree that super neighborhoods are great. We can stop there. A good leader leads by example, and one of the examples that a leader sets is to listen to people. I've done that throughout my life, particularly at my law firm. The young people know that they can disagree violently with me, and I listen to them. And that's what super neighborhoods are about. They're very discordant views. A good mayor will listen to them and will take them into account and act as an executive in the best interest of the whole city.
Senator Whitmire.
I've had an excellent working relationship with super neighborhood leadership and their members. Because they get such a response or lack of response at City Hall, they would call me as a state senator and I will go visit, whether it's illegal dumping, the homeless issues, or certainly the sound ordinance. I've ridden with HPD and seen the abuses of the sound in the establishments. What we need is a responsive city hall, like I've been my entire career, getting reelected because I'm in the neighborhood on a regular basis. We need a city council that can be more responsive in the community, allow them to initiate ordinances. I've been a legislator. I never had to ask someone, could I introduce a bill or an amendment? Let the city council represent their district, working closer with the super neighborhoods. I know that it will work. What you have to do is bring people together, listen to them, prioritize your needs, and then go to the neighborhood. I suggest, look at this audience tonight. What if you had evening city council meetings? I've suggested it to council members, and they said, well, we don't know if the city could support such an operation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to take city government to the communities and allow the citizens to come to City Hall and be welcome and have input. We should have evening City Hall meetings, and we would have the crowd that we're looking at tonight, and we would unite and solve Houston's problems.
Okay, candidates, this is simply a question we're going to ask for a yes or no response. It's going to be tough, but I know y'all can do it. Here's the question, starting with you, Dr. Christie. Do you support the development of neighborhood or area plans for each of the city's 88 super neighborhoods?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
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 No.
Yes.
I know many of you wanted to expound on that, but there will be some other yes and no questions that we will ask as well, and you're going to want to expound on those as well. However, due to our time constraints, we will have to stick with the format. Here's a topic that everyone sitting up here on the dais is very concerned about. You've touched on it, and now it's time to expound on it for a minute and a half each, and that is crime. The question: what, if any, changes would you make to HPD's policing strategy? For example, would you prefer a community policing model over the call for a service model that is currently being used? Mr. Christie.
You could do a hybrid of the service model and the community deal. Let me tell you, and I hope that you thank the police officers as you go out. We've got one of the best police forces in the nation. Look at all the major cities: Chicago, New York, California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Portland. It is in disarray. But I think with firm leadership and a good police chief, that we're keeping a lot of that under control. You don't see the times that the police prevent crime. And I've seen it with 4 police chiefs. They know how to prevent riots, disturbances. And then we just got a great police force, and I just pat them on the back every day.
As the next mayor, I would support community policing. This past July, when we approved our budget for the city of Houston, it's the first time that we approved $1 billion for HPD. So with that said, we only have, again, 5,400 officers divided amongst 3 shifts, covering over 645 square miles. So as the next mayor, what I want to do is work and be smarter in regards to the resources that we have. For example, many of our neighborhoods are patrolled by the constable's offices, but yet, when I was president of my civic club, or the super neighborhood president, it was very frustrating when you had a constable deputy there at your meeting and you had an HPD officer there at the meeting. They didn't have the same information in regards to the crime because they do not communicate with their radios. So as the next mayor, I want to work with the county judge and the county commissioners and city council and HPD and the sheriff's department and the constable's office to make sure that communication between the constable's office and HPD works. So that way we can have more constable deputies as well as HPD officers out on our streets. I know in downtown Houston, I represent downtown Houston, we had a law enforcement summit where we had the Metro Police, we had the Sheriff's Department, we had Constable Rosen's office, HPD, and we're trying to figure out how we can patrol downtown Houston much better than what's being patrolled now. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to regrettably repeat my comments from earlier, but I think it's important that we all recognize, number one, let's not reinvent the wheel. The firefighter model proves that spreading out the stations throughout is the fastest way to get to a fire. It makes common sense that we bring back community policing, so we spread policing and police visibility throughout the community. Because number one, the visibility itself is a deterrent, and number two, by being spread out, they can get to a crime faster. And I believe there are many different shopping center owners and so forth that would be willing to give up space to have their a place for a police substation. I think they would do it for free. And so that's what I would work on, and that's what I would do. I would also expand our lighting, particularly in high crime areas, because we know that there's a direct parallel between darkness and greater crime. And then lastly, I would I would look to hire more civilians, because we have many police officers that are not doing policing work. They're doing civilian work. And so I would bring back more civilian workers to get the police officers out policing the city. So I'm Gilbert Garcia. I'm ready to be your mayor.
Congresswoman.
I started out discussing crime, and I will dig a little deeper into it. First of all, I believe in community policing relationships. And I think if you divide this city by neighborhoods, you're driven by the needs of the neighborhood. We had a tragedy in Chinatown just a few weeks ago. That community wants to ensure that they have an active neighborhood storefront. And I would be very supportive of that. At the same time, we have mentioned, and hopefully we'll mention, the relationships we have with county government. There is an enormous amount of collaboration that we can do on crime with county government, starting from the constables to the deputy sheriffs. One was just wounded the other day. The federal government with the ATF, the DEA, the U.S. Marshals who help get the violent criminal off the street. I will use all of the resources pressing in on the high crime areas. But I'll also deal with the ATF on gun trafficking, which I've done as the ranking member and chair of the Subcommittee on Crime in the United States Congress. I know this work. And so we will work to get guns off the street, but we'll also seek federal dollars to partnership with us for gun violence intervention. We need to be able to as well. Individuals who are steering in the direction of crime, put a plumbing tool in their hand. Let them be an electrician. Let them be a welder. We've got to be able to have alternatives for young people other than crime. And so we have to have a holistic view to crime. Working with law enforcement, layering the law enforcement, working with your neighborhoods, listening to your neighborhoods, and having targeted crime visibility, anti-crime visibility during that time.
Congresswoman.
Thank you.
Mr. Kaplan.
The question sets up a false dichotomy. We have community policing and we have call for service policing. We just don't have enough people to do that. There's a PFM study that Mayor Turnus commissioned in 2017, for which we paid over $700,000, which talked about how to increase our coverage. And that involves civilianization of a lot of the in-house services that uniformed officers provide. If you want more community policing and you want to be able to respond to service calls other than murders and violent assaults, you need to spread the force wider. You need more cadet classes. That's something that you have to prioritize. We cannot get by with papering over those issues.
Senator Whitmire.
Thank you. For any opportunity to solve and reduce crime, we have to admit we have a problem. Government, so often, whether any of the quality of life issues we're talking about tonight, and certainly public safety, you can't have your officials not dealing with the truth with the public. We do have a crime issue in the city of Houston, in the greater Harris County. I have an established record as chairman of criminal justice. These are not promises, it's a proven record. We must be smart and tough on crime. Tough on crime for those that would put a gun in your face have to be held accountable. We have 900 defendants on the streets of Houston tonight waiting to go to trial for murder or capital murder. They're either out on bond or they're fugitives and we don't know where they are. A very dangerous population. We have sex workers on Bissonnette that the police are arresting. They don't need to be arrested, they need to be in treatment. You lock up people you're afraid of, not those that you're mad at. I have an established record of solving criminal justice issues. We must speak out. We must work with the county on the backlog. I passed legislation this spring to move murderers and capital murder cases to the front of the line. I know for a fact if we declare crime is a top priority with resources, recruiting to get more HPD officers, you have to make it a priority. You have to, as public officials, level with the public. Yes, we do have a public safety issue across Houston. Minority communities never see any proactive community police work. The only time I go out in Pleasantville and witness law enforcement is when they're serving a warrant. We have to have people, community policing, proactive police, hold violent offenders accountable, and help those that want to change their lives. We need a re-entry program for those
Senator.
being released.
Thank you, Senator. Now, we did warn you that there were a few more yes or no questions, and here is another one of those. In fact, I have two that I would like to present to you. The first one, do you support HPD's partnership with the Texas Department of Public Safety to increase the number of officers in Houston? Yes or no?
Absolutely yes. No.
No.
I don't know anything about a partnership that has been established, so I can't speak to it, but I would not support it. I do not know anything about an existing, I don't know what the question is saying. There is no partnership between HPD and DPS. They have been working together on a number of task forces, and certainly that should continue. But I don't know anything about a partnership. So I'd rather not speak on that, but I would rather have more cadet classes, more police officers that are HPD officers and working locally here.
I plead the same lack of knowledge. My answer would be no.
If you're talking about DPS resources for public safety, I would say yes. Forensics lab, their helicopters.
Yes or no, Senator?
Their anti-gang task force, yes.
The second yes or no question, do you support HPD officers working second jobs in uniforms at bars, nightclubs, or other establishments that can be sources of community conflict? I'll repeat the question. Yes? Do you support HPD officers working second jobs in uniform at bars, nightclubs, or other establishments that can be sources of community conflict? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
There won't be a conflict, but I say yes.
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 Thank you.
Our next category of questions involves infrastructure and transportation. Each candidate will get to respond for 1 minute. 1 minute. The question, Mayor Parker issued a complete streets executive order aimed at making city streets safe for all users. And Mayor Turner issued a Vision Zero executive order aimed at eliminating all roadway deaths as preventable. In addition, in 2017, Mayor Turner issued the Complete Communities Initiative and the Houston Bike Plan. What, if any, action would you take to codify these executive orders? Why or why not? Dr. Christie.
Actually, I was at the ribbon cutting of all three of those programs. Complete Streets with Mayor Parker was right down the extension into Midtown of Bagby. The elimination of pedestrian deaths, we did a crosswalk and signals at Shepherd where a person in a wheelchair was run over. And the complete communities, absolutely. These are all good ideas. And you know, if I had time, I would tell you other good things that those previous mayors did for the safety of individuals and the Bike Association of Houston. Their ideas are fantastic. The death near Rice University. I was there at each one. I supported and I voted for each and every one of those.
As the next mayor, I would continue with complete communities. Born and raised in the East End and running for city council as representing District I, we were one of many communities in the city of Houston, in my opinion, that has been neglected for decades. With complete communities and Director Buggs and Mayor Turner, they have allocated some resources into these complete communities to provide services that we had not been receiving as a city. So therefore, I would go ahead and continue with the complete communities. In regards to safe streets, with the autonomous vehicles that are now being developed, I know San Francisco's having some issues right now with the autonomous vehicles that they're testing, but we need to be ready for those autonomous vehicles here in the city of Houston, where you see these cars, of course, driving without a driver. So we need to work on making sure that our city streets, so that way we can be sure that these autonomous vehicles will be safe when they're operating on our roads.
I didn't quite understand the question, but I'm going to say that I was Metro Chairman. I love mass transit. I'm happy to talk all about mass transit, but I want to opine on this concept of bike lanes, because I do not support the continued cannibalization of streets to create bike lanes. I think there should be much better thought. Well, thank you. I think we should do much better study about what are we doing to the traffic in the neighborhoods? What are we doing traffic to the community? How many people are riding their bikes? I just think right now it's just happening for whatever reason. But ultimately, all this is on my website, on my pledge. I do not support the continued cannibalization, willy-nilly, what's been happening. And I also think bike lanes are wonderful, but they're a luxury. I would rather use those resources on public safety or fixing our streets. Thank you.
Transportation is a multidisciplined approach that we need to address. I would support all of those programs that have been offered and look to finding ways to implement them at a more enhanced level. But what I think is most important is that we need to be adaptable on transit and street repairs as neighborhoods desire. We need to make sure that we explain to our fellow Houstonians that our porous topography, our soil, makes a repair one day a broken street the next day. I would be looking for federal dollars to ensure that we could, one, connect our neighborhoods as desired, two, enhance our mobility through Metro. I brought in the $900 million that jumpstart Metro, but Metro is bus and BRT and bus shelters, and so I would be guided by these programs, but as well guided by neighborhood direction as it relates to mobility.
The question is whether we need to codify these as ordinances. We don't. We just have to be practical. There will always be drunk drivers who pay no attention to the metro rail or the buses. There will always be cars that ignore bicyclists. There will always be bicyclists that ignore cars. I talked with Public Works when they were proposing to take a lane out of a thoroughfare in the Heights. The neighbors are all against it. Public Works had no idea how many lives that would save because they don't even know when the pedestrian deaths occur. So my answer is no. We should be adaptable, we should be practical, and there's no need to codify in ordinances things that may be determined useless in a year or two.
I would certainly support the existing programs, but I think we can do a lot better. We must do a better job to including everyone. We've got to listen to the residences. People of Houston feel like they're not being heard at City Hall. The 311 concept, try it. I've tried to do it at Blossom and Westcott. We needed a crosswalk, so I called 311, got my case number at the direction of my council person. Then I had to contact Public Works. They said the crosswalk would cost $100,000. I said, I'll help you raise the money. Then they told me we couldn't get a crosswalk because we had enough accidents. Folks, it's great to have 10 complete communities. But what about the 11th and 12th Spring communities? We cannot divide Houston by those who need services and those who are getting them. I got Denver Harbor constituents talking to me. They want their first sidewalk. But I get over at Heights in Washington, and they're tearing up a good 3-foot sidewalk to put in an 8-foot sidewalk. We've got to use common sense, listen to the residents, spend their money wisely how they would have us do it. It's not happening right now. Be inclusive at City Hall. Reach out and listen.
Okay, candidates, your favorite. Yes and no questions. They're pretty straightforward. Do you support the lowering the speed limit for neighborhood streets to 25 miles an hour?
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Yes.
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 No, I have to revisit that question.
No.
Yes. In fact, actually,
Here we go. Yes or no question number 2 in this category. Do you support the expansion of market-based parking? That is, the elimination of minimum parking requirements beyond downtown's central business district. Yes or no?
No.
Yes.
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 And the final yes or no question in this category. Will you work to ensure that all new or reconstructed sidewalks and bus stops are built in compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act?
Absolutely yes.
Yes.
Enthusiastically yes.
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 We've dealt with crime, we've dealt with infrastructure. Now, the quality of life. Each of you will have 1 minute to respond, and then there is also a related yes or no question at the end. The question regarding quality of life. What will you do to help neighborhoods address burdens caused by businesses that threaten the quiet enjoyment of people's homes? Examples include storage facilities for explosive substances, industrial facilities that emit toxic pollutants, and entertainment venues that attract crowds, causing disruptive noise, traffic congestion, and heightened risk of crime. Mr. Christie.
Those are current topics too.
Yes, they are.
My platform deals with health, and that's the health of you as an individual, the health of the air, the soil, and the water. Education, quality of life. If your children can't have a good education, you don't have a good quality of life and then not a good job. I will work as mayor with the districts plural, to help their education system. And finally, health, education, and welfare of the taxpayer. The taxpayer is being overlooked in all this. There's waste of money, there's over budgeting, and I will deal with that quality of life, the health, the education, and the welfare of the taxpayer.
As the next mayor, in regards to products that are at businesses in our neighborhoods, unfortunately we are not zoned in the city of Houston, so we have many businesses in our neighborhoods if you don't have deed restrictions. I know Fire Chief Peña is here in the audience. and I know he has come to City Council at Public Safety to state that we need more inspectors. We need more inspectors to actually be out in our neighborhoods, but inspecting these businesses to make sure that they don't have dangerous products next to your house, for example. So as the next mayor, what I will do is work with Chief Peña and the fire department to make sure we do hire more inspectors to go into these neighborhoods and inspect these businesses that unfortunately many of us live next to. Thank you.
What's going to guide me is a simple rule. How would I feel if that trash dump was built next to my house and my neighborhood? How would I feel if that big parking garage was built right behind my house and the light pollution made me have to close my blinds and I couldn't sleep at night? How would I feel if there was a bar that was built right next to my neighborhood and there was trash everywhere? That's what's going to really guide me. How would I feel if that happened to me? And so my view is this: I would do everything possible to either strengthen the ordinances or prevent that from happening, because you got to put yourself in the shoes of the neighborhoods and the neighbors, and you would say it's not right. And that's how I feel. I'm Gilbert Garcia. I want to be mayor.
Congresswoman.
Thank you. The first thing I would tackle is noise. This is a business city. We realize that. And we're able to live with businesses, but it's the bad actors that make the noise and disturb our neighbors. I would work specifically and directly on that. In addition, I have already proven that I can help our communities. There was a grease spot out in Spring Branch, we got rid of it. There was a concrete area out in Northwest, we got rid of it. We work with neighborhoods, with the federal government, with the Environmental Protection Agency, and then at the same time, we continue to work to focus on ordinances that make your life better. Quality of life, education, better parks. I want public-private partnerships in adopting parks. Your neighborhood parks, your pocket parks should be the best that you could ever imagine. And then continue to work and direct the construction of sidewalks as neighbors want to have them, working again with federal dollars. I'm the best to know how to do that, along with collaborating with our state and local governments. The county has been very effective in working with us as well.
Mr. Kaplan.
Can you repeat the question?
The question: what will you do to help neighborhoods address burdens caused by businesses that threaten the quiet enjoyment of people's homes? Examples include storage facilities for explosive substances, industrial facilities that emit toxic pollutants, and entertainment venues that attract crowds, causing disruptive noise, traffic congestion, and heightened risk of crime.
You may have noticed I stay within the time limits, and these are all way too short to answer questions fully. But the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you have a problem in your neighborhood, complain about it. A good executive listens to that and does something about it. Some of our ordinances are simply not enforced because of a lack of manpower. Some of them can be rewritten or tightened up, but it's a case-by-case basis. I think the super neighborhoods are a perfect vehicle for that.
Senator Whitmire.
First of all, we're going to have a mayor that can work with other levels of government. Our terrible relationship at City Hall in the state of Texas and our county in the state of Texas is harming Houstonians. We're not getting the resources that we need, whether it's transportation, public health, or even public education. So we're going to have a mayor that can reach across the aisle, work with those that control the purse strings for the state of Texas. We also are going to have to work with the county. We need to remind the county officials that we're gathered tonight in Harris County. We pass their bond issues inside the city of Houston. We can't continue to have two of everything. 2 animal shelters, 2 library systems, 2 park systems, 2 road systems. We're going to have to get smarter in 2023, use the resources as best we can, and eliminate the constant quality of service disrepair in our city.
Now to those lovable yes and no questions. Efforts of the Turner and Parker administrations to reduce homelessness in Houston have received national acclaim. Will you continue these efforts, yes or no? Efforts of the Turner and Parker administrations to reduce homelessness in Houston have received national acclaim. Will you continue these efforts?
Yes.
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 Second, yes or no? Do you support installing real-time air quality monitors in Houston neighborhoods and making the readings available on the internet?
Yes.
Definitely yes.
Yes.
Yes, I've been working on this issue.
Yes.
For sure. Yes.
The third, yes or no? Will you maintain, enforce, and defend ordinances intended to protect and preserve the character of existing neighborhoods, such as the minimum lot size ordinance, the historic preservation ordinance, ordinances creating residential permit parking areas?
Yes.
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 Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, candidates, well done. We're down to our final category. You're all going to get a chance to close. Here's the question. Why should voters choose you to be the city's next mayor?
This is the most diverse city in America. 120 languages are spoken here. Previous mayor took me, the only council member, to 14 different countries. I've been to 51 countries. This mayor took me to 9 different countries. This is an international city. The businesses here and the international businesses makes this a very profitable city. So the revenues should be good. We've got the largest oil and gas, import-export, NASA, largest medical center in the world, if we don't spend more than we got. Don't follow New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland. Let's make this the best city in America to where they come for advice here. And I'll be that mayor that'll bring you there.
90 seconds for each.
Again, I'm Councilmember Robert Gallegos, and the reason why you should vote for me out of the candidates that are sitting on this stage, I'm the one with the experience. Prior to being a council member, I was out in the community as a community leader, community organizer in the East End for over 30 years, president of my civic club for 15 years, founder, first president of the Eastwood Lawndale Wayside Super Neighborhood, chair of quality of life, vice chair of economic development, and former chair of regulation and neighborhood affairs. I have a proud record of what we've been able to accomplish these past 10 years. I've worked with 2 mayors, Mayor Parker and Mayor Turner. We were able to have our first botanic garden here in the city of Houston. It's still city property, it's still city green space, and it didn't cost us $1. We have a beautiful, historic 18-hole golf course, the Gus Wortham Golf Course, the oldest 18-hole golf course in Texas. Again, it didn't cost the city $1. As a council member, I was able to either acquire or refurbish over 300 acres of green space in District I, benefiting District I and the city of Houston. So again, out of the candidates that are sitting here on the stage, I have the experience, I have the record, and I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. Please go to voterobertgallegos.com, and I want to be your next mayor.
My name is Gilbert Garcia. I'm running for mayor. You can see my pledge. It's all there. Everything that I would do and start to do my first 100 days at GarciaForHouston.com. One of the things that we didn't talk about, and Lee, I do want to know what it's like to build something and have a permit problem. It took us almost a year to build some modern income housing that I've been building with a friend of mine, and that's unacceptable. I would put market forces in there to be able to streamline permitting, because by having a bottleneck of almost a year on permits, that's preventing us from having the modern income housing that we desperately need, and that's preventing us from getting more revenue on the tax rolls. The other thing I would do, of course, I would look, it's going to take someone outside the system to really make the tough decisions, to be able to consolidate departments, to do things differently. Because if you look, from around 2006 to now, the budget of the city of Houston has grown almost 85%. Almost 85%. We have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And in that same time period, the population has only grown about 10%. So there's going to be difficult choices. I'm uniquely positioned. I have no revenue for the city or any of the city entities. I don't receive any, neither does my firm. We can make the tough choices. That's what I did at Metro. That's what I would do as mayor of Houston. I'm Gilbert Garcia. I hope you vote for me, Houston.
Let me introduce to you what Houston is. It is the 4th largest city in the nation. It has a story to tell. And although we have the same trials and tribulations of cities across America, it's a good city with good people. Elect me as mayor as I take you to City Hall with me. Elect me as mayor because I work and get results. I cross the aisles in Washington, D.C. and have passed some of the most complicated legislation. Member of the Budget Committee, passed the Violence Against Women Act. But yet coming home, I know how to move ideas. We can't be a city of feeling badly every day. We have a lot to sell. We can fix our neighborhoods, but we can have ideas. We can turn our vacant downtown apartment buildings into housing and cluster business places so it generates revenue. We can have public-private partnerships that will take care of our parks and some of the things that the city needs, expanding this building, helping the disabled that are in our community. We can lead this city into the future. Elect me because I have ideas, because I bring ideas, because I recognize we're an international city, and we'll get the international community to invest in this city, and you will generate revenue. Let's not look to the negative in the past. Let's look to the future. Let's build a budget on what the future is. Let's make Houston grow. But a vote for me as mayor of the city of Houston.
What I said at the beginning is what I say now. If it's worth doing right. We have tough times ahead, but it's labor intensive. You know, campaigning is easy. This is easy, it's fun. But governing is hard. And it's a lot more than making speeches. It requires you to listen to people. It requires you to go out in the neighborhoods. It requires you to really make hard decisions. That's what I specialize in doing. I'm a little bit of a contrarian, I recognize that, but I'm not afraid to defend being a contrarian and saying, are you kidding me, when people talk about the status quo? There are things that will come up that some people won't like. We'll all make mistakes regardless of who is mayor, but I have the capacity to admit that I make mistakes and to rectify them. This is a great city. If people enjoy living here, the word will get out, and we'll attract more people. That's better than tax incentives to corporations for job promises that are inherently unverifiable. I could speak forever about these things. We have time limits. I intend to keep abiding by them, but I think we can do things right in a way that people will respect and that they will feel the mayor has listened to their problems, addressed them, and this will be the kind of place that will attract more people, more jobs, and more taxpayers to share the load. Thank you.
I'm running for one reason, to make a difference. I've had a distinguished career in Austin. I was asked by Houstonians to come work closer to Houstonians with the issues, not only public safety, but economic development. In 1998, I passed legislation to create the Sports Authority. We have these great sports venues with thousands of jobs. This spring, I was asked by the city of Houston to carry legislation creating an entertainment district downtown. 3 miles in every direction from George Brown. We will cap the state sales tax. In the future, it'll be going to Houston first, repair the Arts and Theaters District, open an east side entrance to the George Brown, open up east side Houston, an additional convention hotel. Billions of dollars would flow into downtown Houston. It will also help the Washington area, in the area of Richmond, to get the bars and entertainment out of our communities, but downtown. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have to come together. I'm not a divider. I'm recognized for uniting people, creating working groups that can bring people together. Constituent service should be our highest priority. Thank you for holding this forum.
How about a big hand for all of our candidates? They are impressive. And before everyone gets up, Bishop Woodard's going to come up and give us a prayer of protection and faith, I was told.
Okay. Let's give our moderators a hand. Jose Griñan and Groogan. Let's give them a hand. Houston, we want to thank you all for coming out. Very much. It means so much to us that you came out and supported Super Neighborhood Alliance. As you all can tell, this takes a lot of sweat and a lot of hard work to do this, but you all are worth it to us. And I wanted to acknowledge and let you all know that Cheryl O'Brien, she's the current Super Neighborhood Alliance president. I am one of the formers, but we wanted to name, because there's very few of us who have been willing to take this on. Whether you know it or not, Super Neighborhood Alliance represents 1.8 million of you all. And we do it from our heart. We do it for free. We get no benefits and we get no vacation. So let me give honor to our past leadership. Bessie Stratton, Jackie Mayhorn, Elaine Gascamp, David Robinson, I Am Tomorrow Bell, Jane West, Michael Huffmaster, Cindy here, Cindy Chapman, and Cheryl O'Brien. Let's give us all a hand. And now we're going to have a closing prayer from Bishop Woodard. Oh, before that again, did y'all enjoy the food? Let's give our sponsors a big hand. The Savoy, Taste Kitchen and Bar, and Soul Food Vegan on Emancipation.
Let us pray. As we leave this debate tonight, we ask for your continued guidance and inspiration. May your blessings be upon each candidate, their teams, and all those involved in this electoral process. We trust in your divine plan, and we ask for guidance in these days to come. In your holy name we pray, and it is so, and it cannot be otherwise. And repeat after me: God is the light that surrounds us. He's the love that enfolds us. He's the presence that watches over us, and he is the power that protects us. Wherever we are, he is. Wherever I am, he is. And wherever he is, all is well. And so it is.
Amen, amen. I'm sorry, Chief Sam Pena, raise your hand. Let's give him a hand from the fire department. Is here supporting us. Thank you so very much. And look, take a plate home, y'all. I don't want to be carrying all this food. Get y'all some food to go. Feed a neighbor. Feed a friend. Thank y'all. Wait. Please, y'all, let's thank Citywide for our audio-visual donation tonight. Thanks, Citywide. Thank you so much. Get up here, Dennis. Dennis was our person. Thank you, Dennis.